Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Productions channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another Album of the Week video. This is episode number 191. Today, I will be talking about Tyranny and Mutation, the classic second album from the legendary Blue Öyster Cult. Originally released through Columbia on February 11th of 1973. Of course, this Stone Cold classic will be 50 years old this Saturday. So in a way, I will be celebrating this album before it hits 50 years old. So without further ado, let's begin. So, Tyranny and Mutation was being written while the band was still touring for their debut album. Again, the self-titled from, the previous year. Eventually, they would get booked at Columbia Studios in New York City, still keeping the team of Murray Krugman and Sandy Pearlman as the dynamic production duo. And by February 11th, the band's second album is released. So, the album here consists of 8 screaming dizzbusters. Okay, that might have been way too corny. Just had to find a way to tie in some sort of track from the album. Again, one of my personal favorites, which I'll get into in a bit at some point in this video. Okay, move on. This, of course, clocks in at 38 minutes and 11 seconds. So, these 8 tracks are, of course, beginning with one of the most, right off the bat, one of the most classic songs already, that being The Red and the Black. Then, of course, on to OD'd on Life Itself. Then, of course, on to another classic too, that being Hot Rails to Hell. Then, 7 screaming dizzbusters, Baby Ice Dog, Wings Wetted Down, Teen Archer, and then ending with Mistress of the Salmon Salt, parentheses, QuickTime Girl. So there you go, there's your 8 tracks. Tyranny and Mutation continues in the same direction that the debut was going at, but yet propels it, making it more refined, with the band being more confident in their writing and is starting to realize their own craft and where they want to take it. So this album is accomplishing the vision of the band, with also the band taking liberties by changing one of their songs off their 1972 debut and giving it new lyrics and a brand new song title that not only breathes new life to it, but shoots it all the way to the top and making it one of the band's most anthemic songs and pretty much overshadowing its original formation. What I'm referring to is The Red and the Black. Previously went by I'm on the Lamb, but I Ain't No Sheep on their debut. It was slower, laid back, and pretty much a mid-paced number. Again, it had a very neat atmosphere to it, but with The Red and the Black, they took this already cool sounding riff and supercharged it. The lyrics were obviously referencing the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. All of this, of course, made the track their most iconic song, next to, like, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, again, earlier. At least, I'm trying to, of course, respectively keeping it in line with this timeline than just going on, trying to shove in as many classic Blue Öyster Cult songs, because of right now, during this review, I'm just kind of, in a way, acting like that some of those have yet to happen, like Agents of Fortune and so on. So, alright, I digress. But besides the classic blistering opener, this album also sports some other great iconic songs, like the hard-hitting third track, Hot Rails to Hell, which is a personal favorite of mine. It was actually the second single to be released in the wake of the album. However, it was the only song to be released as a single in the US. The Red and the Black was only released as a single in Japan, which is crazy given how much the song blew up to be a crowd favorite and would open up some of their compilation albums. Sadly, the song didn't chart, again, speaking about Hot Rails to Hell, but the fans, nor I, didn't really care. And don't still care, we don't care. It still marks as one of the band's crowd favorites, and that's all that should be there, be said there. There are also some other cool songs to be found here, like OD'd on Life Itself, which is a catchy desert-like rocker that consists of the band's sense of humor. It's just a fun song. Speaking of other catchy songs, we also have Baby Ice Dog, which was co-written by Patti Smith, who would also work with them on future songs. Again, more of the band's crazy sense of humor. Another song I have some fondness for is Teen Archer. The only song on the album to feature Buck Dharma on vocals, again, Donna Rosier. Again, always a unique guy, just so much more cleaner compared to the toughness of Eric Bloom's voice. And while Teen Archer is not the typical song that someone would normally picture when it comes to the Buck Dharma sung songs, especially when it comes to the stuff off of like Agents of Fortune, again, would be less metallic, again, and more vibrant, almost bordering on AOR. But here with Teen Archer, it's a bit hard-hitting, kind of heavy, with more of a solid structure. With, of course, Albert Bouchard hitting down the fast double kick drum, even though it's not being played at the kind of pace that you kind of hear guys, like, let's say, Les Binks or Simon Phillips, again, who would work with Judas Priest on some of their heavier or fast-paced songs, or even the late Phil Taylor, with Motorhead. Before you got any of those kind of songs, Albert Bouchard, of course, was really kind of hitting down some of these double kick drums pretty early too, so it's really kind of cool to hear him that. And again, I think he was a pretty underrated drummer, I should definitely mention here. I think he really should be put in some way, shape, or form next to likes like, for example, Ian Pace or Carmine Appice, guys who really kind of were pretty hard-hitting during this period. While Albert may not have that sort of same thick drum snare that you would associate with the John Bonham, but he still had his own style, and he definitely could still hit just as hard and still play just as precise, I think, as some of the classic drummers I just mentioned, again, like Ian Pace and Carmine Appice. So I think he again, deserves some sort of notion or whatever, Again, it just makes, because of some of these attributes and these aspects, it to me makes the song a pretty cool overlooked song in that regard. Again, because when you speak about some of the great songs off of any of these Blue Öyster Cult albums, Teen Archer just doesn't seem to get, mentioned, whatever, and I think it's a kind of a shame. It's another cool song, and that's where I'm going to go on with there, okay? Alright, so the only song here that has the laid-back vibe of the debut is Wings Wetted Down. The only song on the album to have Joe Bouchard, again, Albert's brother, on vocals. Though he shares it with Eric Bloom, who pretty much handles most of the majority of the vocals on the songs on this album. Again, making this album heavy-handed on Eric Bloom. But it's a neat song and is great for a breather. I could also cover Mistress of the Salmon Salt, parentheses, QuickTime Girl, but the song I want to end on is fucking Seven Screaming Dizbusters, one of the album's definite highlights. It really shows where they were heading. It's heavy, it's rockin', it has plenty of riffs and has that proggy psych elements that you were hearing on the debut, but it's just more defined. It's such a fucking cool song. It's just epic and rounds out the band's first instant classic album. Now, as much as I've said plenty of glowing things about this classic, that doesn't mean that it's a perfect album. It's great and all, but to me, the band was still finding itself, though. Again, to me, everything would come all together on what would be their third album. That one is Secret Treaties, which would be Blue Öyster Cult Awakened. Still, Tyranny and Mutation has plenty of great songs, and that's all that matters here, because it still is a great album, and that's why it was worthy of being spotlighted on this channel. So, since this album is soon reaching its 50th anniversary, again, this week, you probably are inspired right now to revisit this great record. If you were one of those who have cut their razor-sharp teeth or have been sewn to on this, you can leave your comments in the comment section below. They could also be negative, but if you have never listened to this album, you're probably wondering if this is a good one to start your mystical journey into this band's discography. I would say this is a fine start. Now, most would either start a newcomer with either Agents of Fortune or Fire of Unknown Origin, which I've already covered on this channel, or maybe Secret Treaties. Honestly, any of those three are safe albums to start with, so if those turn out to be good to your liking, then you can venture further. That's all I'm going to say, but again, you can always land on Tyranny and Mutation. It is such a good album, though, to begin with. Still, it's probably far from my favorite album. Still, I've got a lot of admiration and just appreciation for this record. It is so good. So, that's it. Hope all of you enjoyed. This is Heavy Thrash saying I am out, and I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone.